Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jordan from Just Tesla, and today, as you can see, we are with the Model X P100D. It's a 17 plate. It's absolutely packed with technology. Maybe too much technology, eh? Come on! As you are aware, Model X has been covered many times. Model S has been covered many times. I covered the Model S last week. But what I'm trying to do is give a perspective as somebody who would buy a new Model 3 and see if maybe they should look at buying a second-hand Model X or a second-hand Model S. Last week we found out that maybe the Model S would be a pass at a similar price to the Model 3, but is the Model X? So the one thing the Model X has going for itself is the technology is above the rest, in my opinion. Check this out. So it's just simple stuff like this. Opening the car, the door opens for you, and then you can step in the car. It didn't open very wide this time. You can step in the car and the door will shut for you as well, which is pretty crazy. Let's have a look. You step on the brake, no hands mar. How amazing is that? So it's just stuff like that is pretty crazy. I mean, I could just open the door, but just for heaven's sake, let's just do it with that because I wanted to show you that you could. So I didn't know if the Model S competed with the Model 3. It's quite a hard call to make in terms of looks. I do think the Model X does, and it's all down to its presence. It's such a big vehicle that it gets a lot of attention, and in my eyes, when this is parked outside, I do like the look of it. Obviously, we all know Falcon wing doors. Now, if you're after attention, come over here, my friend. If you're after attention, the Model X is the one for you. Forget the Model S, forget the Model 3. You open these doors in a car park and it's like a magnet to eyeballs. It is so ridiculous. You can tell why, like you don't see cars that do this very often. So yeah, it's like a big old magnet for the eyeballs. And if attention is what you're after, then they're fantastic. Now, practicality wise, these things are bloody brilliant. Come around the other side. Putting a child's car seat in, ready? Then you would throw your child's body into the seat, straight there. Do I need to bend down? No, straight over. But there you go. How wild is that? And I think this is where these doors are absolutely amazing. What's the actual downside to the Model X? And in terms of the cars, for me, this thing's been absolutely brilliant. Everyone loves it who's sat inside it. It's so big, it's fantastic for me. It's fantastic for the family, it's fantastic for friends, and it's fantastic for work. But there is a massive downside, and I'll get into that. I want to get into that right away before we start reviewing the car. And that is, they're expensive. These doors are so over-engineered that they can fail. And if they do fail, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. Doors aren't supposed to open like that. They're not supposed to do that. That's why no one really does doors like that. They're not supposed to do that. So the chance of them failing are a lot higher. But I tell you what, when it's all working, it's bloody brilliant. First things first, that's unbelievable about this car is the space inside. It's so big. It really is massive. This is actually the 7-seat configuration, but I've only got 5 seats set up at the moment because I like the boot space. But it's huge. It's too big for me. And That's why, for me, I'm kind of sold on this car. Now, so one thing I would say that when I got into this car, I had the same kind of feeling as when I got into the Model S. The Model 3 is so fine-tuned that it feels perfect. It feels like a breath of fresh air, it feels right. This feels slightly outdated in comparison to the Model 3, but the difference between the Model S and the Model X, because they have a very similar interior, is this interior suits the Model X. In here, it feels about right. Now, I still think if they had that same interior transferred from the 3 over to the S and the X in a similar sort of style, I think the insides of these cars would be so much better. But because this thing is so big, even though the center console and the dashboard and all that sort of stuff is so big, it doesn't feel as suffocating as it does in the Model S. Speaking of space, let's go have a look in the front. So as you can see, this is big. It's got a big front. The front is probably the size of a small hatchback's boot. Pretty impressive. I'd expect no less. The car's massive. Let's head round the back. There's no point in me climbing in this thing. You could easily get 4 dead bodies in the back of here, and that's with the 7-seat configuration. There's a huge bin down the bottom of here. There's 2 fold-away seats. This is the 7-seater version. The thing's massive. You could genuinely get, I actually think if you was willing to chop the bodies up, you could get about 8 bodies in the back of here. Including the front, that's probably another body, that's about 9. I think you could get 10 dead full-size adults just in the boot space. With the white leather, I wouldn't recommend putting bodies on white leather. It's probably going to stain, but that's actually a good point. The white leather wipes down, absolutely beautiful. So maybe it's something you want to consider. The thing I like about the back of this as well is this big fat spoiler really gives it a nice little look. It's a very simple looking car, but you know, because it's so big, it looks nice. So in the inside, we have these seats, and the second row is so practical because we've got these buttons here. So you want access to the 3rd row, you pull these forward, look at that, tilts forward, and if you wanted to, you could have these 6 seats up, no problem, somehow. I actually don't know how they come up. I mean, look at the space. 7 seats, are you kidding me? Now, I'm not going to pretend like it's big in here. It's not big, it's tiny. But for kids, these last 2 seats are absolutely fine. That's not actually, yeah, I'm not joking. 2 small kids in the back, no problem. 5 adults in the front, 2 kids in the back. That's genuinely what you could get. And just easy to get out. You could mistake yourself for being in the Model S in terms of the lower half of the car. It is that kind of simple thing. The difference is you've got this nice chunky center console here with lots of storage space underneath, unlike the Model S where you've got that floor space instead. The dash and all that kind of thing are exactly the same as the S, but for some reason it works better. There's more space. The panoramic windshield is just ridiculous. Like, it's so big. The amount of comments people have said, like, no one expects something like that. And again, it's fantastic, it's amazing, but if you chip that thing, it's expensive to fix. If you crack that thing, it's expensive to fix. And then they've got these little workarounds which are quirky, but would it come in handy? I don't know. Again, it's pretty cool. If we go into the entertainment system, very similar to the Model S. You've got adjustable suspension, You've got all the seats, you can move all the seats round and all this sort of stuff. So you can have easy entry on, so the seats are set backwards and all that sort of stuff. You can move the middle row, you can move the front row, all that sort of stuff. Absolutely fantastic. Autopilot, all these kinds of weird and wonderful things. The one thing I would say, again, that's missing, which is a problem for me, is no theatre mode, which is frustrating. So no theatre mode and minimal games again. So you'd need the updated version. So if you was buying a used X, something to think about if you really invested into the entertainment system like I am. It's something to think about. Now, someone did comment on the last video saying you can upgrade to a better system. If that's the case, then there you go. You can upgrade to a better system. Probably just requires a bit of money. Let's talk performance and speed. This will do, I think, 0 to 60 in 2.7 or 2.8 seconds. So it's no slouch. In fact, it's just ridiculously fast. This is the P100D. It would cost a lot more than a Performance Model 3. Even a used one would still cost quite a bit more than Performance Model 3. And this thing would be faster than it in a straight line. Now, a Model 3 would probably destroy this thing around a track, especially with the new track mode. But this is what I would like to call a sleeper. The amount of times I've been pulled up to somebody at a traffic light whilst I've had this car, and I put it in, it's in ludicrous mode, and someone's come up wanting to race, and this thing, people don't expect it to move that quick. It's such a big, heavy looking vehicle, because it is a big, heavy looking vehicle, but it will beat everything off the line. There's not many cars that are going to beat a P100D Model X. 2.6 seconds, or 2.8 seconds I think it is, nothing's going to beat it off the line. And because of that, it's a pretty surprising little thing to have up your sleeve every single time you hit the lights, if you ever want to. One thing I've found, again, is I don't feel comfortable doing fast speeds in this car. Similar to the Model 3, the Model S, I didn't feel super comfortable. And that's because it is so big. It's so heavy and so big. Whereas the Model 3, if that was doing similar speeds and performance as this, I think you'd be a lot more comfortable. The handling's better. If you get more of a road feel, you don't feel as connected to the road driving this thing. But in a straight line, this is quick. Because it's a bigger car, the energy consumption, so I'm over, they say typical should be around there, 300 something. I'm well over that. That's obviously very high usage. This was driving down here, so I was close to the typical. I was almost close to the typical amount. And I like to keep the car in chill mode, because ludicrous for me is just too much to handle. And I like to just have it in chill mode. There's no need to be racing around super fast, in my opinion. So if I was to be looking at buying one of these things, I probably would be looking at the 90 or maybe even the 70 if I didn't think I needed the range, because I don't need the speed. The speed is something I would save for the Roadster or maybe even the Model 3 Performance. So I don't think if you're buying one of these things and you're like, I want the speed as well, I don't think you need to in the X. I think save that for a more track-worthy car like the Model 3. You don't need to go that fast. 0 to 60 in 4 seconds is rapid. 0 to 60 in 5 seconds, fast. 0 to 60 in 2 point something seconds is just ridiculous. And then couple that in with the fact that this thing's like a tank. You don't need to be going that fast. So yeah, bring on the days when the Cybertruck's here doing 2.9 seconds in a bloody tank. So, cool feature or not cool feature, key. You don't get one of these in the Model 3, you can order one. You do get one of these in the Model S, but it ain't anything like this. This thing, you get to press all over the place, and doors kind of open and doors kind of close, and these doors open and those doors close, and the boot opens and then the front closes, and then you can do all these weird and wonderful things, and then by the end of it, you know, everything's open and you didn't realise, and then you can close it all as well, quite easy as well. But is it needed? Is it worthy? I think in the Model X, it actually comes in handy. In the Model S, it was not needed. I would have preferred a little key card. In the Model X, the key is kind of important thing. Again, I bet these things are quite expensive. You don't want to lose it, but you know. In terms of looks, again, similar to the Model S, everyone has seen this car. They've seen their favorite YouTuber with one, or the kids, especially younger people, they've seen their favorite YouTubers one, they've seen the favorite celebrities with them. So people recognize the car. People instantly recognize the car. So you get a lot of attention in the Model X. And obviously when the Falcon wing doors go up, obviously that's ridiculous. But just driving on the road, it's got a lot of presence on the road. You're a big car, you're higher up than everyone else. People look all the time. So if that's what you're going for, this car is fantastic. If you're trying to go stealthy and you don't want to get noticed by people, this is one of the worst cars you should ever buy, because you will get attention in this. Go for the Model 3 if you're not looking for loads of attention. Just sent Sentry mode off by mistake. So yeah, this car feels like it's got more of the modern technology. Now that might just be because it's an updated version, but it's got a lot more of the Model 3 features, which I like. Practicality wise, this thing is a beast. If we wasn't taking cost into consideration, if we wasn't taking money and servicing and all that sort of stuff into consideration, this thing is a beast. It's so big. It's such a utility vehicle. Like, it's a truck. It genuinely feels like a truck. It's got so much space. You can store stuff under the seats. You can, in the back, there's a boot under the boot, and it's massive. In comparison to the Model 3, the screen just feels dated. Again, this is a 2017 model, so it's a little bit different than the Model 3. It's a little bit different than the Model S. It's got a few features here, but it's not as good as the Model 3. It's not as fine-tuned. This whole center console takes up so much room. It's so bulky that they'd be better off having a screen just like the Model 3 has. And for that reason, I prefer the Model 3's interior in terms of being fine-tuned. Again, there's more stuff going on. There's a button here for the glove box. You've got all these buttons here for your cruise control and your wheel and your volume and your skipping songs and your turn signals and all your windows, all that kind of thing. Where the Model 3, you've got two little scrollers in your screen, but it managed to do exactly the same things. It managed to fit everything in both. The heads-up display is nice, but again, I don't use it. It's a nice, cool feature. It looks cool, but once you're used to having that screen over here, you don't use this anymore. If you're used to a Model 3, you don't use this heads-up display anymore. So yeah, it's another thing to think of. Some of the features like this, some of the features like this light here, they look nice, but they feel a bit cheap. They don't feel as well defined as the Model 3. My initial thoughts are that the Model X, a used Model X, if you need a big family SUV and the Model Y is not going to suffice, then I would get a used Model X. Now, if you've got the money, I'd get a new Model X, but I would get a used Model X personally. I think it's a fantastic car. Unfortunately, for us, for me, all of my family, all of the kids, everyone has loved this Model X so much that we're now going to keep an eye out for a Model X as well. I had the same sort of feeling with the Model S, that I wanted to buy a Model S after driving around a Model S, but this is like a surefire thing. Like, it's going to happen. We're going to buy a Model X because the vehicle has given us so much joy. People flipping love it. Now, as a driver, I've said this to everyone and people are shocked by it. As a driver, the Model 3 wins all day, in my opinion. You don't notice a difference once you drive in. You just don't. But for passengers, this thing is unbelievable. And practicality-wise, it's the best thing ever. This thing just looks nice. Like, you see this driving through the forest and through the woods, and it just looks nice. It's, like I say, the road presence on this thing is unbelievable. And if you're watching from the outside, you see this thing coming by, you want to know what the car is. But it doesn't scream luxury straight away. Until you see them doors come up, it doesn't scream anything, to be honest. It just is a big car on the road. It's a big Tesla. But when you see this thing driving past, when you're driving this thing, you just feel like you've got a nice road presence. You feel very good. If you're thinking of buying one, you can buy a you can use the link below. I'm pretty sure all Model X's and Model S's come with free supercharging at the moment anyway. So yeah, that's another little bonus of having a Model X. A lot of these used Model X's come with free supercharging because it's free supercharging for life. I've used the free supercharging network with this a few times, and it's really convenient. It's really nice. It's cool to see how many Teslas are being used in the UK right now. I've seen that many Model X's at the superchargers. I'm starting to think that there's a lot more of them in circulation in the UK than I actually originally thought. But yeah, that's my initial thoughts on the Model X. I'm going to be doing a side-by-side comparison with the S, the X and the 3 and comparing them all to each other. I've got loads of content coming with this thing, so stay tuned. Sorry for the lip smack just then. That's Jordan from Just Tesla. Stay safe out there. Wash your hands.